I'm actually just starting. I was planning on being right on time. And so as soon as 5 o'clock came, I was so excited because this topic is one that we've all experienced. It's one that I just experienced, and I'm going to share my testimony with that. Y'all know I like to keep it real. So on days where we have real topics, I like to show up just natural and raw and real because I'm right there with y'all and I totally get it. And so just to start, like those who may not know me, my name is Katana Castile. I know my branding has lashes and makeup and all of that stuff, but I am a mom of 5 and this is how I am most of the time. So with that being said, I do want to get started. If you are live, comment so that I can see you. But that's a little short introduction of who I am. And I love talking about real topics that we really deal with and how to handle these things in a godly way. And I know this is a broad topic. So what I prepared for you is this beautiful, if you can see, this is what it's always hard to get it. But this is like what I prepared notes. These are session notes. So if you find what I'm saying, I'm done with that. But if you find what I'm saying valuable at all and you think it'll bless somebody else, share it out. Everybody that shares, I'll send this to. Again, these are the session notes. They're awesome. It's beautifully designed by me. And it's just something for you to have as you're going throughout the week, because as we know, offenses will come and rejection. Hey, Ashley. And rejection is just one of those things that will happen. And so I wanted to talk today about thank you, Ashley, how to deal with the sting of rejection, but we want to do it in a godly way. We still experience all the emotion and all the, the heartache and all the everything that everybody else feel, right? But we want to do it in a godly way. We can't respond like, hey, Kirsten, the way we used to respond. So we want to do this in a godly way. And as y'all know, I'm a talker, so I had to prepare notes to keep me on track. And as I'm going through the notes, I won't be able to see y'all comments, but I will respond to them after. But y'all can make comments throughout. I'll go back. So to start off, we're going to talk about what is rejection? What is this? We've all been through it. We all know it. But do we really know what it is? And so rejection, the definition, rejection is the dismissing or refusing of a proposal, idea, or a state of being rejected. So it's pretty much like when you perceive that an offense or wrong has been done to you or someone else that's close to you, and or even when somebody tells you no, because we know we do not like to hear the word no. That's like a bad word for most of us, So whether you were raised that way or whatever the case is, no is such a hard thing to hear for most of us. And a lot of times when we hear the word no, we automatically feel rejected. And it's not the case, So hopefully with this session on today, it'll help you to realize that and know what to do when you are feeling rejection. So yes, when we hear no, that hurts, and it does hurt, my experience with rejection this weekend, and I couldn't wait to share it because anything that happens with me, I love to just blow the lid right off of it. I like to keep it real. And I know that somebody else probably dealt with it, but people don't really talk about it. So that's what I like to do. And so I'm going to share my testimony, what happened with me. And yeah, and I know you're going to be able to relate. So, but it hurts, it hurts. And in my case, it was a situation where it felt like everybody was invited but me. And I'm I'm awesome. Who wouldn't want me at their event? You know what I mean? So to me, I couldn't really wrap my head around it, And so I'm going to tell you how I dealt with it and the process that I went through. But I'm sure we've all had an experience where we felt like I was just left out or I just wasn't, whatever the case is, right? So yes, it hurts, when it seems like everybody's invited but you. And yes, your ego feels bruised. You begin to evaluate your friendships, your relationships. You wonder if there's anything you've done wrong. So whether rejection is large or small, one thing is this consistent is that it hurts, right? Like it hurts, and it usually hurts more than we've even expected, because like I have friends, so it's not like I don't have friends, but for some reason that affected me more than I realized, and I realize now. I guess I'll just go ahead and share it now. I had it like I'll share it later, but so as y'all know, like we scrolling on Facebook, and as I'm sharing this, I'm gonna go back and see y'all comments. Hey Ava. Hey sis. Yes, so this is what happened to me. Okay, so this is my testimony with rejection. So I'm scrolling on Facebook, and I'm like, hey, because let me tell you, first of all, a little backstory. I'm the kind of person that if I'm having anything, like it don't even have to be my event. If I know about something that like would be amazing to like somebody that I know, I want everybody. I'm so inclusive. Like I like everybody there. I want to fellowship with everybody. I want to see everybody, because we're all so busy. Like, you have your life, you have your family, you have all this stuff. So it's like, man, if we getting together, like let's get together. Like, that's just who I am. And I don't even like tables that where you have, like one way that person way to the end and you can't even really talk to them. I'm like, get some round tables so we could all talk to each other. Like, that's just who I am, right? So I'm very inclusive. So especially being like a Christian, for me, it was hard to understand like even the concept of you leaving people out, or like it's like just this little group, or it just, that always bothered me, because I'm so not like that, and so girl, Ashley, so so now this is why I realized that it bothered me more than I thought it would. So I scrolled on Facebook and I'm seeing like, I saw a picture and it was like a couple of people that I knew, and that was cool because great, but then I started seeing like, man, that person and that person and that person, and I'm like, man, it seemed like everybody there except me. And I'm like, I wasn't even doing nothing. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, I didn't even work that day. Y'all feeling me, right? With the hearts and stuff. Like, yeah. I was like, I didn't work that day. It would have been awesome because I don't think my husband was here. And I would have loved to fellowship and like meet everybody. Like, I was mind boggled. So, immediately, like when a thought comes in, you're like, nah, I'm not even going to like give place, right, to the devil. But it just kind of, the seed was already in there. So it just kind of started growing a little bit, right? And so when I realized that it affected me more was because this wasn't the first time. And again, y'all, you ever want to see me hurt is like knowing that somebody is hurt. If I know somebody else is hurt, it doesn't matter if I did it or any, like, I love the people of God and I love God's people. And I don't want anybody to be hurt or left out, or we know what that experience is like, And so it's just like a form of like adult bullying sometimes. Not in this case. I want to make it very clear. Not in this case, but there are people who do that as adults. And so in God, you don't want to be like that at all. You want to be so far. Jesus was very much not like that. And so we want to be like him. And so when I found out that another person felt the same way, I didn't tell nobody, y'all. I didn't say anything to anybody. But somebody was like, I really am going through about something. I was wondering if I could talk to you about it. And because they didn't know if it was just them or if it was just the devil, like just try to come in their mind or whatever. And so they told me like it really, and this was like the first time that this happened. Not this time here, but the last time, like I was telling you, I realized it wasn't the first time. So it really like, it shocked me, and so it brought up all of that old stuff that from before. So anyway, and so when I realized that person was really that hurt, I was like, okay, and I know the Bible tells us that if you have an offense or you've been offended by anybody, you go to that person and them alone, not even come to me and talk about it. Because I don't talk about people, like I will go to them, because maybe, and we'll talk about this with handling it the godly way versus like the ungodly way, or like, you know, your way, your natural way of doing it. But you know, like you want to go to that person because maybe they didn't know, like maybe they didn't mean it like that. You can't just think maliciously about people and like they meant to do you harm, or that's just a wrong way of thinking about it, right? So so in my case, I was just like, oh my God, like, you know. And so of course, like I saw the person, I saw a couple of the people, and I was like, I'm in my mind, because you know the enemy always bring thoughts or whatever. And I was like, no, I'm going to respond the same way. I'm going to, you know, love them the same way. I'm not going to just accuse them, because you don't know, you hadn't even talked to them. And sure enough, when I spoke to one of the people about it, they were like, oh, wow, you didn't know? And I was like, no, I didn't know. I would have loved to be with y'all and just like, you know, get to know people too. And they were like, oh, okay, you know. So I knew it wasn't like a malicious thing or like something that they did on purpose. But again, had I just responded and just been like, no, y'all know, like this is like the normal way of doing it, right? Like we handling it ourselves and not godly, in a godly way. Like you just going off with your own thoughts and your own perceptions, right? Like, but when I talked to them about it, they were like, you know, really, they just didn't know that I didn't know, you know? But, and so I let that be, and I let it be at peace. And then what I said for me that I was going to do is, when the next time I'm free, I'll do a meetup, and anybody who wants to come is welcome. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter your social status. None of that stuff matters, because as women of God and as daughters of God, we are all inclusive. Like I don't want anybody to, you know, to feel excluded. But this is what God began to speak to me, which is so true, right? So this is what like really helped kind of shield that too. God told me, he was like, well, Katana, would you really want to be somewhere that somebody don't want you to? Like, would you really want to be somewhere you were not invited? Like, as awesome as you are, you know what I mean? Like, would you really want to be, would you have really enjoyed yourself? And I was like, no, because if they really didn't, if that was the intent and they really didn't want you there, as awesome as you are and as awesome as you're showing up and as friendly as you are, if they don't want you there, it won't be pleasant. It won't be good for you, you know? And so when he told me that, thank you, Sister Ashley. When he told me that, I was just like, yes, God, you're so right. Thank you. He's such a comforter, isn't he? Like, it's the smallest thing, but he's such a comforter. And so that really comforted me. And he began to show me how it's really just the way that I was perceiving it. You know, again, it doesn't matter if that was the intent or not, because you can't speak for somebody else. Like, you can't speak for what's in their mind or their heart. That's between them and God. But all you can do is like control you. And so, you know, I realized the way I was perceiving it was going to cause me to have bitterness and unforgiveness in my heart. And I know that that's against God. And then I was going to really have a problem, because that means that my relationship with God now was going to be in jeopardy, because I was, you know, holding sin and like disregarding his word, like concerning unforgiveness and stuff. And so I was like, I'm not having that. Like, it ain't worth that. You know what I mean? So I really just, and like I said, if you realize like you prayed about it and you just can't shake it, go to that person. Go to that person. And 9 times out of 10, they're not going to say like to your face, like, no, I purposely didn't invite you. But hey, L'Oreal. But, you know, just let it be what it is. Like, and so one of the tips, and I know I'm hopping around, y'all, but one of it is, what I did was got with another sister, which here I am on Facebook. And I just had like, one of the sisters had commented how she was not doing anything. She really wanted to get together with people. And y'all, it broke my heart, because I'm like, wow, we all could have been together. Like, it just, see, I almost get emotional now thinking about it. And it's not because I'm feeling any way about it anymore, but that's how much I love people. Like, I would never like intentionally leave anybody out. Like, I'm telling you, that's just not the love of God. Like, it just, and again, I'm not saying that anybody did that for that purpose, but that's how the way I was perceiving it, because I kept seeing pictures and I kept seeing events happen, and it was the same people, and it wasn't like anybody knew. And I'm like, I get it. Like, so I was given every benefit of the doubt, because I was like, I didn't want that on my mind. I was like, well, maybe they didn't have enough room, maybe whatever. But when God told me that, I was like, right, because you don't want to, God doesn't even want to be somewhere that he's not welcome. So why would you want to be somewhere that you're not welcome? You know what I mean? Like, call somebody else, get with another sister who may not have been invited or didn't know or left out, and like, y'all do something together, and God will be in the midst, and God will bless you, and y'all have a great time, and you get to know somebody that you may not have known. While I'm on that, and I wasn't even going to mention this, but I might as well, because we know that Sisterhood Retreat time is coming. Those of you who don't know, it's every year we get together with our sisters. It's like over 500 women, and we worship God and praise God and learn of God. It's just amazing. Well, this is what happened last year, and I wanted to share it. Man, I pray people not offended, but I mean, I pray that it blesses somebody else, because nothing goes out void. Like, God, it'll bless somebody. So this is what happened last year. Every year we get to choose roommates. You can pick your roommates within a certain timeline, but if you don't, you get room with people you may not know. And some years I purposely didn't choose a roommate, because I told God I wanted to get out of my comfort zone and really embrace people that I may not have even known. Because one thing I know about God, like, sometimes your word that you've been waiting on, or something that you've been praying for, comes through somebody that you didn't even expect. You know what I mean? So how can you get that if you always around the same group of people? Like, that's why I love just obeying God, because everything will work out in his word the way he said it if you just follow the word, Well, anyway, so I had my roommates. I didn't pick. I wasn't able to choose. But I ended up with one person that I knew, and I think two that I didn't. It was the biggest blessing. I met Sister Ava, who's on here, and another sister. I roomed with them. Well, the sisters that I was supposed to room with, I think, or something like that happened. They switched rooms, and we all taught, like, don't switch rooms again, because you never know the blessing that God had for you. Well, they switched rooms, and God, when I tell y'all, God moved in our room. Like, God spoke, and yes, Sister Laura, you have to come. Oh my God, Kirsten, it was so good. So, like, people were coming to the room. God was really moving. Man, yokes were being broken. I mean, in prayer, it just was amazing. And the same people that switched out of the room that had me in their room, which was so weird. And it's not because I'm like somebody, y'all, if y'all would know me, like, I'm not, I'm not saying this to be boastful or anything, but God really did move. Yes, God, yes, I'm telling you, God, Sister Ava, no. And so every day, man, God would really just speak to us and like move. And so the sisters that switched out the room end up missing out because of disobedience. God does not reward disobedience. And so later on, they tried to like come back into the room and stuff. But I mean, it was already filled. And God spoke what he needed for those that were obedient. You know, so don't switch it. Like, you don't know what God has for you. Stop trying to just, you know, limit him and put him in a box like it has to come this way. Let me tell you something. If I'm praying for something from God, if I'm looking for something from God, it doesn't matter if I'm in the middle of the ocean and I'm drowning and I need help, because I don't swim, y'all. Like, I don't. But so if God sends, I don't care if it's a canoe, it could be a speedboat, it could be a raft. Okay. It doesn't matter how he delivers me. Just let me be delivered. Like, so when we start looking for it to come a certain way, the man that Jesus healed with the spit in the ground, he spit in the ground, he made clay, and he put it on the man's eyes, and then the man could see, right? If the man would have been like, well, no, I mean, you know, healing ain't supposed to come by you spitting in the ground. Who cares how it comes? We have to stop being respect a person, and like, you never know. So that's why when I do this meetup, everybody's invited. It doesn't matter what church you're in. It doesn't matter your economic status. None of that stuff matters, because it doesn't matter to God. You are welcome. Please know that you are welcome. Anything that I do, you are welcome. So that's my testimony. That's my testimony that I had to share. Yes, he did, Sister Ava. He really did. And so now I'm going to move along. Again, if this is blessing you and you know that it will bless somebody else, please share it. And if you share it, I'm going to see everybody who shared it, and I'm going to send y'all the notes that I created, which is awesome. It's going to be all the notes from today's session. So share it out. You never know what somebody's praying about. You never know what they need. This may be just like spot on for them. So with that being said, we're going to move along, y'all. I like to keep these like 30 minutes, and I already went over. Hey, Sister LaDacia. So I went over, but I'm going to try to make it as quick as possible. So we talked about what is rejection. So now we want to talk about like, where does this stuff stem from? Like how does it come about, right? So we have in us like an innate sense to belong. We want to belong somewhere, you know, and people that fight that, like that think they don't need nobody, like you just lying to yourself, because that's the way God made us. He didn't make none of us to be like on an island by ourselves or do this by ourselves. You need somebody. You cannot go along this thing. He said two is better than one. Why? Because when one is down, the other one is able to lift them up. So you're not supposed to be trying to navigate this thing by yourself. You need somebody, you know. So okay, so that comes from our need to belong, right? And so when we're rejected, right, we feel rejected, because again, rejection is just our perception. It doesn't mean it's true. Are you really rejected? Like, no, that's just how we feel. And we allow that feeling to make us behave or respond a certain way. But that it's not true, you know? So what it does is it destabilizes our need to belong, and we become intensely self-critical. Oh my God, that's so true. Because like I told y'all in my testimony, like I began to think about like, man, did I offend somebody? Like, you know, but I mean, I didn't think I offended anybody. Like, so it makes you like go through all these thoughts, like, you know, and it's just the smallest little thing. We immediately put it on ourselves. Like we did something wrong, or, you know, it's the weirdest thing. So what's the common trigger? Often it's because someone said something to us. Either they insulted us, or they rejected us, or judged us, or ignored us, or differed with us in some kind of way. Maybe they didn't have the same opinion as us, so we felt rejected, right? It's usually someone we interact with often, which is so true, because you don't care if somebody rejected it. I mean, sometimes you care, but it's not to the magnitude of if like you know that person and they rejected you, you know, or you feel rejected by them. So like it's usually somebody that we know or we interact with often, a friend, a spouse, a parent, a child, boss, colleague. 9 times out of 10, this is the reason for our emotional pain and drama. So why does it hurt so bad? Y'all, this is so cool, because y'all know I love psychology, right? Yes, it's in the mind, totally in the mind. So I love psychology. So the first thing that when this happened to me, I went automatically like, where am I written in the word? Right? Like, where is this in the Bible right now? Because I need to know how to respond to it, right? In a godly way and not like my own way. But then also like, what's the psychology behind it? Because a lot of times, like if we just understand like how our brain works and how we process thoughts and stuff, man, 9 out of 10 of your trials and tribulations and like offenses will be like done away with, because you understand how the mind works and how it's designed to protect you, right? So why does it hurt so bad? Well, the same areas of our brain become activated when we experience rejection as when we experience physical pain. Y'all, it blew my mind. I did not know that. So that's why even small rejections hurt more than we think they should, because they elicit literal emotional pain. Oh my God. I was like, okay, because you know, it hurts. It hurts. Right. Okay. How can you get delivered from the spirit of rejection? That's a whole, I mean, it's really digging deep on where that stuff came from, because a lot of times when you're a child, and I know this is going to take me like squirrel, but I'm going to talk about it more in the group too. But like when you're a child, you learn, you're totally innocent, like you're totally pure. And you learn how to deal with rejection by experiences you've had. Does that make sense? So like you've learned, right? So let's say you were a child and you were around a stove, right? You didn't know the stove was hot and that it had the potential to burn you until you touched it. And then you learn, and this taught you, it's stuck in your memory. It's a memory now that when I touch fire, it'll burn me. This is what happens when I do it. You learn by experiences, right? And I'm gonna talk a little bit about it too. Wait, we learn how to deal with rejection as we're growing up. And so, but I'll get to that too. So and this is the point I wanted to make. We've been raised. This is how this happens. We've been raised to value other people's opinions of us, dependent on how they view us. So like, this is a natural outgrowth of growing up in a family surrounded by adults and authority figures. As a child, what do you learn? How to obey, and you learn like what's acceptable, what's pleasing, what's not, you know, what'll get you rewarded, what'll get you punished. Like this all a learned behavior, right? So most of us grow up with little attention paid to our own inner relationship. And while we are taught to place value on the opinion of others. So a lot of times we are taught to value how others perceive us more than we're taught how to be self-aware. And like be aware of how we of our own feelings and emotions and all of that stuff, right? So and I'm trying to check back and forth like with my notes and keep up with the comments too. But that was a good question. We'll dig deep. We could dig deep in the group, Sister Kirsten. So yeah, most of us grow up paying little attention about our inner stuff. We've always been taught to project our inner stuff out to other people. And I don't know if y'all heard the saying like hurt people hurt people. Well, that's where that comes from, because they haven't learned how to deal with their stuff. So that's the only way they feel big is when they make somebody else feel small. You know what I mean? So, and I guess I just like God just freed me. Like it doesn't matter. I can show up any kind of way. Like that's also a practice and learn thing, right? Like you constantly have those thoughts that you have to overcome. So while we're taught to place value in other people's opinions of us, so we are taught to ignore the power of our own self-appraisal and our own self-awareness. And so most of us, we're raised to honor what others thought of us over our own opinions of ourselves. And we were simply conditioned to fall in line with the status quo and go with the crowds. For instance, this came to my mind, y'all, since I'm thinking about it. Makeup. Most of us, like when we're in middle school and we all have so much to offer. Yes. Oh my God. Yes, it's the Ladacia. That's the thing. Because a lot of times people will say like, man, but you're so like with my personality. People love my personality. But yes, that wasn't like overnight. I had to learn to first love myself and learn like what God had in me to offer and that it was good enough before anybody else would feel that way, right? Because if I'm walking around like I'm not really valuable and like what I have doesn't really matter, like how can anybody else feel like that? Like nobody else is going to feel like that because you don't feel like that about yourself. But I can show up, y'all. I can show up just like I am. That's why I do this though, because I mean, anybody could tell you how to do stuff but they're not doing it, right? I'm very much the same. Like how you see me now, I'm like this all the time. And everybody around me, I want to feel comfortable, just as comfortable in their own skin as I do. But that wasn't something, because I know how hard it was for me to get there. I shared my testimony, I think it was last week when we were talking about how to balance everything, or maybe it was the week before, I forgot. But it's in one of my videos that's on my page. And I was talking about how in high school, I felt like the ugliest person. Like I felt like a creature. If I didn't have makeup on, if I didn't have, that's why I do this. Anytime a thought comes to me where it's like, ooh, you can't get on live, you got to put makeup on. I don't, because it's not going to define me. Like we choose what we listen to. Do I listen to the voice of truth that tells me that I'm made in the image of God and that man, he made me like this. I don't need any enhancements. I love me just the way he made me. And I'm loving me even more the more that he perfects me on the inside, the more he purifies my heart, and the more that I can show love to people, and the more that I can be genuine and just truly concerned about people. I love me even more. And that has nothing to do with the outside. It has nothing to do with my hair, my car, my house, like none of that stuff. Having that stuff is good, but it means nothing to me if you don't have the same peace on the inside. So I purpose to live my life in a way that makes other women feel just as comfortable with who they are. That is success to me. When I have women coming up to me saying, man, you don't know how much you've inspired me. I want to start a business like you. How do you do your kids like this? Like, how do you, man, I love that because that is success to me. You know what I mean? Like, I know people with zeros and zeros and zeros in their bank account, no peace. I'd take peace any day, because that stuff is temporal. Like, you can always get more money, but you don't have no friends because you don't know how to talk to people, because you don't have no love. You know what I mean? Like, you're very exclusive. Like, the more people I can bring into me and love on, the better. I love it. Like, that's who I am. But that's not who I am, because that's who, you know, I that's my persona, right? That's who God has created me to be. And so as much of my truth as I can walk in and stand in and share with y'all, that's why I come on here. And sometimes, you know, again, that thought, y'all, and I know we're over 30 minutes, so I totally understand if y'all have to go. But those of you that could stay, I would love to have you continue with me. But, you know, that's why, like, for me, it's all about just letting other women know, like, you're enough. You really are enough. You really are enough. And so I'll get back to the notes, y'all, because I'm going to just go off on these tangents, you know. But so our self-esteem, again, depends on the image of other people. So, like, in middle school, that's what I was going to say. Like, when did you realize, at what point in your life did you realize you were ugly without makeup? Can y'all put in the comments, like, what? I remember this. Like, it's just the weirdest thing, because I was fine before then. I mean, I was minding my business, going to school, and, like, one day I was just like, you just ugly without makeup. But it wasn't like one day, right? Like, it, right? So I know for me, so I don't see y'all comments yet, but I know for me, this started around middle school, you know, and you see a lot of those young girls, they really don't know who they are yet. That's the most influential time of your life, right? And then high school is even more dangerous, because then you think you're an adult and you think you know everything, and then you start making grown decisions that change your life forever, and you just have no clue what you done. You know what I mean? And you have to live with that for life. And so, but for me, one day I'm like, I saw these girls and they look beautiful. And I was like, oh, thank you, Sister Diane. But they were beautiful to me. And I was like, oh my God. So maybe if you just put like a little bit of mascara, you know, you start bothering your mama to wear makeup. And she's like, what? Like, you never cared about that before. You know what I mean? So yeah, 9th grade, right? Sister Kirsten, like, yeah, used to, oh my God, high school was like everybody grown. They like grown women. So yeah, high school, junior year, middle school, maybe, yeah. One day, these kids, because what they were doing, they influenced you, and you like, I'm all of a sudden ugly. Like, I need some help. Like, I need some, you know. And I'm telling you, I thank God for the time that I came in ministry. I've been saved 16 years, right? Middle school, but high school for sure, right? Girl, you remember that line we used to put on our lips, like, oh my God, I'm telling you, it's so funny now, right? To think about it, right? And then people always say, oh girl, you don't need that, but you felt so ugly without it. And so, you know, you bothering your mama, like, can I wear makeup? Can I wear makeup? And yeah, it was the craziest thing. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. It's like one day we just, you know, you see these people and you start, that's why my daughter, I purpose. I'm not like, I let her evolve. That's a dangerous time, because, and you see a lot of like now, and I know this is a whole different thing, but like you see bullying and like they committing suicide, these little kids, because this is a time you're learning who you are and you're learning about yourself, and you don't really know yet, but you think you know, but you really don't know. And you think the old people don't know, you know, you don't think your parents know, and nobody seems to understand, right? Oh, you just don't understand, you know. But yes, they've been there. They've been through it. They do understand. And that's why it's so influential, because you're just getting to know who you are. And that's why even for me, it's like reaching out to these kids. Like, it breaks my heart when I see like a young girl pregnant. I'm like, I got pregnant at 16. Like, I mean, I know that life. Like, I know the struggles. I know it breaks my heart. I don't like it on Facebook. I can't like heart it. I can't thumbs it up, because I know how hard it is. I've been through it. Hey, Shira. So I want the best for you. I can't be like, hey, girl, you having a baby? Woo! No, because I knew the plans that God had for you. Not that it can't still happen, but I know the struggle in it. I lived it. Got pregnant at 16. I was engaged. I'm like, what you were doing engaged? You didn't even live. Like, you didn't even know nothing about yourself. You have no business trying to link up with nobody. Like, what? Y'all, our kids, like, oh my God. But anyway, that's a whole nother tangent. I'm gonna get back to these notes. So yeah, our sense of self depends on other people. Therefore, when someone we hold dear to us that we esteem high, when they judge or reject us or hurt us, it just destroys us. We automatically enter into a pattern of reacting with either equal hurt and pain, or we wallow in it and or dump it back to them. You know what I mean? Like we either wallow in it and let it depress us, or we project it back onto other people, you know, some other unsuspecting victim. So whether the rejection we experience is large or small, again, it doesn't matter. It still hurts the same. But what if, so that's what now we get into it. So what if we choose another way? What if instead of like automatically feeling the hurt and, you know, we felt nothing, like almost neutral, like what if we gave ourselves the permission to simply not react? What would our life look like then? Think about a time where you really allowed the offense that happened to you to be really, yeah, that's what, but think about it, Sister Kirsten, you can't be angry about something that you're not, that you don't care about. Like people, when they crying and they're mad and they say, I don't care, like that's a lie. Because if you didn't care, you wouldn't be mad. Yeah, or you block people out. Like if you didn't care, you wouldn't be mad. There'll be nothing for you to be mad about. You know what I mean? So you do care. The reason why you're angry is because you're hurt. That's the root of it all. When you're hurt and you don't deal with it right, because nobody's really showing you how to like work through that stuff, like that's when anger comes. You can't be mad unless you're hurt. Why are you gonna be mad at something you don't care about? That's like, I'd be like, you know. So anyway, so now we're gonna learn how to like the worldly side of it versus the godly way, right? The worldly way versus the godly way. So the first thing that you can do when you have an offense, right? Or you feel, y'all, I'm starting to glisten. Y'all see me like, Lord, that's how I'm moving a lot, you know, I'm starting to glisten. But anyway, so the first thing you can do when you feel rejected or when you feel offended is to acknowledge your emotions. So the ladies in the group know, if you're mad, don't say, you know, I'm a little upset. No, I'm not mad. You know, I'm just a little upset. No, you're lying. And if I'm there, I'm going to call you out because you can't heal what you don't acknowledge. Like you can't fix it. So if you're mad, call it what it is. I'm mad. I know it's ungodly to be mad. I know it's unchristlike to be mad, but I am mad. I'm not a little upset. I'm not a little offended. I am mad. I'm mad. And now that I know that I'm mad, I can take that to God and say, God, I'm mad. Show me where it is in your word so I could be delivered from this mad. Right. It's not good to suppress it. Right. Because then again, what does hurt turn to, guys? In the comments, like what does hurt turn to? I mean, a bunch of different things, but like you're right. Hurt turns into, right, Sister LaDacia, right. So hurt turns to hurt turns to anger. And then angry people, like that's the people, they don't know how to process it right. So they go shoot up people, they go fight people, they need a way to get it out. And they haven't learned how to express it properly, right? So yes, acknowledge your emotions, but recognize the offense for what it is. That's huge because people say like, well, yeah, you know, I'm being real. I'm just keeping it real. Yeah, right. You turn hard-hearted, right, Sister Kirsten? Bitterness. Yeah. So, but yes, you feel that way. But just because you feel that way doesn't mean it's true. Like it doesn't mean it's true, right? Because I'm sure that person feels a certain way too. And they believe that their opinion or their perception is right, you know? So yes, acknowledge how you feel, acknowledge your emotions, but recognize it for what it is. You know, the greatest damage that rejection causes is usually self-inflicted. Yes, rejection hurts, but it doesn't have to hold you back. Like you have to know that a lot of that stuff is coming from you. It's your own self-talk. It's your own stuff in your head. It doesn't mean that it's true, right? Like in my example, when I talked to the people that were there, they didn't maliciously say, well, no, I'm going to cross her name off the list. I'm not inviting her to. No, they're not malicious. They didn't do that like on purpose to like hurt and offend me. But I was yet offended. I was really like hurt by it. You know what I mean? So it doesn't mean that they were malicious though. So recognize it for what it is. Yes, my feelings still was hurt. But when I understood what it really was and acknowledged that part of it too, it just dissipated because it had nothing to feed off of, right? So the worldly way to handle it is, instead of observing your feelings and, you begin to talk about them, accuse them, call somebody else. Yeah, girl, were you invited? Because I wasn't invited. Like, don't do that. That's not godly. Like, don't get with nobody else. Like, but that's our natural. The first thing comes to our mind. Put it on, type in the comment box on Facebook. Like, be like, I wasn't invited. Like, I mean, that's all a way of getting it out in a passive aggressive type way. But that's not the way God told us to do it. You know what I mean? Like, God didn't tell us to handle it that way. He said, if you're offended, go to them and them alone. Not your best friend, not the sister you ate with last week. Like, go to that person. They're the only one that could fix it. And the beautiful thing about doing it God's way is you can heal that thing without anybody else having to know about it. You know what I mean? So they may have not even known that it was being perceived that way. They may not have known that you would have felt like not included. You know what I mean? So go to them and them alone. Let's see. So yeah, don't talk about them. Don't accuse them. Don't develop a sure belief that they meant harm. Like, I know, because they do it all the time. Like, that's ungodly. Don't do that. You don't know what's in people's mind. You can't speak to that. That's accusing. And we all know who's the accuser of the brethren, right? The devil is the accuser of the brother. We shouldn't be accusing one another. Like, that's not godly at all. So they didn't mean harm or they didn't offend you. Instead, look at it from an objective approach. Like I said, what God told me, maybe they didn't have enough room, even though it looked like 38 people was there. You know what I mean? But still, when he spoke that, I was like, hey, maybe they didn't have room for 39. You know what I mean? Like maybe they ought to just topple it over. I don't know. But we have to choose to be happy and to hold, and like I talked about last week, hold your peace. You have to hold your peace, So another thing, don't make a belief out of it. Like, again, just because you believe it don't mean it's true. Like, just because that's how you feel doesn't make it true. Resist the need to defend your position to be right and take ownership for your own happiness, and even go a step beyond, because this is the godly way, right? Restore that relationship. So you be the one. Like I said, I went to them and I hugged them like I normally do. I greet them like I normally do. I refuse to let that seed come in and cause me to have unforgiveness or bitterness toward my sister because of something that they may have not even intended. Right? You cannot accuse. So, and in doing that, it restored the relationship, So another comment, thank y'all for hanging with me. I know this one is a long one, but I think it'll bless you either way. So thank you. Another common mistake we make is to assume a rejection is personal when it's not. Most rejections, whether romantic, professional, or even social, are due to fit and circumstance. So treat yourself and others with compassion. Going through an exhaustive search on your own deficiencies in an effort to understand why it didn't work out is not only unnecessary, but is misleading. Again, I begin to question myself like, man, did I offend somebody or did I? That's unnecessary. You going through an exhaustive search of like what you did or didn't do or might have done, or that's not beneficial to you or anybody else. But treat yourself and treat them with compassion. Think about a time where you may have had an event or you may have done something and it was a small group and you couldn't invite everybody. Think about those things. There was a man in the Bible, and I believe it was David, if I'm not mistaken, because he was the king. And so David took another man's wife and he slept with this man's wife and he actually had the man killed, right? And so God sent Nathan the prophet. And so, because David apparently wasn't hearing when God was trying to deal with him. Y'all know God be trying to deal with us first before he got to make a shame. You know what I mean? And so, God was trying to have mercy on David and deal with him privately, but David apparently wasn't getting it, right? And so God sent the prophet Nathan said to David, and he began to tell him about, how there was a man and he took this other man's one little ewe lamb, like he only had one lamb, on his property or whatever. And but instead of, and the other man had dozens, like he had a lot. But instead of getting one of his lambs, he went and get that man's only lamb. And, he took it for himself. And David got upset, and he was like, man, who is this man? Whoever done this wrong, is going to be punished and killed and all this stuff. And then Nathan revealed to David, he was like, David, you're the man. You're the one who did this. You have, of all the wives that you could have as king and that you do have as king, you went take that man's one wife and then you had him killed. And guess what? Did David say, oh, you're right. Somebody come kill me. I deserve it. I understand. No, David began to say, oh, Lord, forgive me my transgression. According to your loving kindness, have I sinned and done this wrong? I mean, he went into this whole thing about forgiveness now. Oh, so now it's you want forgiveness, right? Like, because it's you. So I've learned that we have immediate mercy when it's us. Because we understand our intent, right? Like, we would never do wrong and we would never do that to somebody. But when it's somebody else, we don't have that same mercy, right? So when God showed me that, he was like, Katana, think of a time where you may have offended somebody, whether you probably didn't know either. You know what I mean? You probably didn't mean it either, but yet they were still offended. So in that, I had immediate mercy. I was like, oh my God. And it caused me to have compassion now, instead of me just thinking like, no, they did it on purpose. Like, no, so again, restore that relationship. Don't just think that people did it on purpose, and understand how this all ties with unforgiveness and bitterness. Your goal here should be to restore the relationship, not defend your position. So you don't want to be holding unforgiveness and you don't want to be holding bitterness, because you don't want God to hold you, right? And so know that your feelings of rejection will not respond to reason. So don't wait to feel like forgiven. Like, it's not going to respond. Your feelings will never respond to logic. Like, you will never feel like working out. You will never feel like, but you still got to do it. Like, you won't ever feel like forgiving. Nobody ever said like, oh, hey, Brittany. Nobody ever said like, girl, I just feel like forgiving today. Like, it's just a forgiving kind of day. No. Nobody feels like forgiving. If we sit around and wait till we feel like forgiving, like, nobody would ever be forgiven by us, because it just never happens. Like, it just never happens. Even what is the apostle yet? I don't know if he was a disciple or he was apostle yet, y'all. But he was like, how many times should we forgive? Like, because again, nobody feels like forgiving. This man walking with Jesus, and he's like, how many times should we forgive? So it lets you know he wasn't just like in a forgiving mood all the time, So Jesus was like 70 times 7 in a day. So if they do it over and over again in a day, you still got to forgive them. But don't sit around waiting to forgive. Like, it ain't gonna never happen. So I'm sorry. I know that might be a little hard for some of y'all to swallow, but that's the truth. Don't sit around waiting to forget, and don't wait for them to come to you. If God is dealing with you to get something right, you go and get it right. You're not promised tomorrow. Like, go and get it right. Don't wait for somebody else to do what God told you to do. Like, that was just a side point. Okay, we wrapping it up, y'all. Promise, we wrapping it up. Thank y'all for being here. I'm so excited. Y'all making this fun. So the next thing is learn from it. Don't let rejection define who you are. Learn from it. Ask yourself, what did I gain from this? So that you can learn from it, rather than simply tolerating the pain. Turn it into an opportunity for self-growth. With each rejection, grow stronger and become better. So whether you learn about areas in your life that need improvement, or you simply recognize that being turned down isn't as awful as you imagine, rejection can be a good teacher, y'all. Use rejection as an opportunity to move forward with more wisdom. That's the first thing I asked myself. What did you learn from this experience? I learned that I still had something in me that needed maybe, but that's a God thing that wants that bond and that connection with other people. But it can't be so much to where you start accusing people if they don't include you. Like, everybody don't have to invite you to everything. You know what I mean? Everything is not a fit for you. You know what I mean? So that's okay. That's okay. Just because I understand you want to connect and stuff, but everybody's not going to invite. You're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. I am not everybody's cup of tea. I know I ain't. You know what I mean? I embrace it. I love it. I love my loudness. I love my uniqueness. That's how God made me. You know what I mean? So I embrace it. I rock it. Like, I love it. I love me some me. You know what I mean? So until you get to the point where you love you, nobody else can love you either. Because if you don't love you and you don't want to be by yourself, who want to be with you? You know what I mean? Like, if you don't, I started making myself, I remember this years ago, I thought about this and I was like, if you can't enjoy being with yourself, How can you want another person to enjoy being with you? Y'all, I started going to the movies by myself. I have a husband, been married 13 years. But I made myself like be by myself sometimes, because sometimes you could get so used to being with somebody else that you feel like you need to be with somebody. No, you don't. Jesus is good. Like God is ever present. He's ever present. He ain't going nowhere. You know what I mean? So you have to be comfortable with who you are, because if you don't, nobody else is going to be comfortable being with you. And that's just the truth, you know? So yes, learn from it. Don't let it define you. Learn from it. Know that God's strength is made perfect in your weakness. That was such a good reminder today. Our goal in everything that we do should be to see his strength perfected in our weakness. Priscilla Shearer had a message, and it was so good. Our goal in everything that we do should be to see his strength perfected in our weakness. A lot of times we hide from our weakness and we try to run from our weakness. But man, that's when his strength is made perfect. Like the whole point of the Truth Room accountability group, they know we are very vulnerable in there. Like it's no hiding. We don't put masks on. No, I need to see exactly who you are. God needs to see exactly who you are, because that's the one he wants to deliver. The person that's lying in bed at night that nobody else sees, that's who needs God the most. The stuff that you put on, the mask that you put on for everybody else at your job and everywhere else, that's a facade. That's not the true you. God wants to deliver the true you, but he can't do that as long as you're not willing to. That's right. It starts with you. He can't do that as long as you're not willing to be seen. You're not willing to acknowledge your weakness. You know what I mean? We all have them. So why we walk around like nobody having no weaknesses? Be honest about where you are. That way you can get the help that you need to grow. You don't have to stay there, but just acknowledge I'm there right now though. And that's okay. We all got to start from somewhere. But as long as you keep letting yourself just be comfortable in your weakness, his strength will never be perfected in you. So know that in everything you do, your goal should be to see his strength perfected in your weakness, especially when it seems difficult or even impossible. That's when he can be glorified the most. And we say, oh, I want God to be glorified. I want him. How you think he's going to be glorified? How can he be lifted up unless you decrease? How can he increase unless you decrease? You have to be brought down. That means that, you know how we read the Bible stories and we hear about Samson and how he fell and, his strength went to a woman, and we hear these other people and all they, thank you, Sister LaDaisha. I'm glad you're enjoying it. But we hear about these stories where everybody else failed, but we don't want nobody to know our stuff. Like how is somebody else supposed to be helped? Why you think you're going through that? Why you think God brought you through that? To keep to yourself? No, it's because he said it. He said why? He said, because when you're strengthened, when you're converted, now it's time for you to strengthen your brother. Now it's time for you to be seen. Now it's time for you to show people how my strength was made perfect in your weakness. That's what your goal is supposed to be. Why are you a Christian then? What Christian? He tells us that our light is not supposed to be hidden, right? We're supposed to be on a bush. He said, what man lighted a candle and put it underneath a bush? I'm messing it up, y'all. But what man lighted a candle and put it under something? No, he said he's going to put it up high where it could be seen. Y'all think that these people in the Bible want everybody to know they mess? Like you think David wanted everybody to know that he slept with that man's wife? He killed a man. Nobody. Samson didn't want people to know that his eyes was put out. But how else can God be glorified if we sit there hiding our testimonies and we so ashamed? Why are you ashamed if God delivered you? Why are you walking in shame? He said, who is he that condemneth? It's Christ that died, yea, rather that is risen. Why are you ashamed of what he's done for you? Glorify your name, Father. Glorify. Jesus said, Father, glorify your name. He said, I've glorified it and I'm going to glorify it again. That's why we're here. Why else are you a Christian? Why? Is it just to say? Is it official on your bumper sticker? Is it, a cross, I love Jesus pendant? Why are you a Christian? You have to, this is the way. This is the suffering way, and I know I went on a preaching tangent, but it's true. It's so true. And this is the last thing, y'all. This is the last thing. I promise I'm wrapping up. But I pray that this is blessing you. I pray somebody needed to hear it. I don't believe the word of God goes out void. So thank you for just being here. So respond. Don't react. Boost your feelings of social connection. So as social beings, we need to feel wanted and valued by social groups that we're affiliated with. That's just, God put it in us to connect with other people. So rejection, like I said, it destabilizes our need to belong, and it leaves us feeling unsettled and socially untethered. So we feel like we're not connected. And when we feel like we're not connected, it feels very uncomfortable because we're made to connect, you know. Therefore, we need to remind ourselves that we are appreciated and that we are loved, so that we can feel more connected and grounded. So if you feel rejected by a friend, just make plans to meet a different friend instead, and do it as soon as possible. Because if you wait too long, you'll have that experience that it'll be playing over and over again. And you're going to be like, you're going to have this fear, like, no, I don't want to do that, because what if I'm rejected again? But if you get on right away, like if you learn how to ride a bike and you fall, if you had a good teacher, like a parent or somebody telling you, they'll make you get right back on the bike. Why? Because they don't want that as your experience. They want the experience of, yes, you tried to ride the bike and you fail, but that's not the end of it, right? Like, you are not a failure because you failed. Failure is an experience. You may have experienced the failure, but you're not a failure. And that's what God wants. Get back up. Call another friend. Like, that's not the only person that you can get with. Like, you don't, like, get back on, because you don't want that as your experience. Like, this is what happens when I reach out to people. See, I can't show myself friendly because I get rejected. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can't do these things because somebody's going to answer the phone. Somebody wants to hang out with you. Somebody wants to find those people who love you just for who you are. Not, okay, I have to clarify that, because I also believe in, yes, love you for just who you are, but always are pushing you to be better. Not allowing you to stay like you are, but they want you to become better, right? That's a true friend. That's true love, So, okay, y'all, in closing, rejection is never easy, but your past patterns of dealing with being hurt are not those you want to continue. We don't want to handle things the way we always handle it. We don't want to handle things the way we saw mama handle it, our daddy handle, unless they handle it the godly way, We don't want to have that same pattern of dealing with stuff, right? Those past patterns of dealing with being hurt are not those you want to continue. So hopefully these steps will help you to overcome and deal with this inevitable situation, because it's inevitable. The Bible says offenses will come. It's inevitable. They will happen. So it'll help you deal with these situations in a more godly manner, and help you to develop some new techniques to keep you from reacting to the new hurts in old ways, so that you're not handling the new stuff that's coming with the lens or the perception of stuff that happened back then. Like, all going forward, this is how it's going to be because of what happened in my past. It's not true. You can't grow like that. You can't have good relationships like that if you still living like in stuff in the past. Like, okay, a lot of times, and that almost blocked me even with my marriage, because I had such a bad experience before, that here I had this godly man that loved God, that served God, and I couldn't receive that love because I was thinking about, like how things were in the past. That has nothing to do. And God had to open up my eyes, y'all. He had to show me, this man loves you the Bible way. Like, he's patient, he's kind, he's not selfish, but yet you can't receive that because all you've known is the opposite. But why you want to still attract the opposite? Girl, I thank God so much that he had more sense than me. You know what I mean? And I thank God because this man has been such a blessing to me. So I'm going to keep talking, y'all. So I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to recap it right quick, just the 5. I'm not going over everything. But so when you feel rejected or you're offended, acknowledge your emotions, but recognize the offense for what it is. It doesn't mean it's true just because you feel it, right? Number 2, don't make a belief out of it. Resist the need to defend your position to be right. You're not always right. I don't care who I'm not always right. You know what I mean? So don't try to defend it when you don't even know if it's true or not. Take ownership for your own happiness, and if possible, restore the relationship instead. Learn from it. Number 3 is learn from it. Don't let rejection define who you are. Number 4, know that God's strength is made perfect in your weakness. And number 5, respond, don't react. Boost your feelings of social connection. Get with somebody else, so that you can see that everything you thought was not true. Somebody will pick up the phone. Somebody does want to hang out with you. You're not an awful person. You know, with that being said, I know that it was a lot. So if you do want the notes for this session, share this with somebody, and I'll make sure to go back everybody that shared, and I'll send you a copy of this because I just love it. And look how pretty it is, y'all. I worked hard on this. So when you're feeling rejected, that way you have something to refer back to, because y'all, it's going to happen again. You have to know if you're living and you breathe, then somebody's going to offend you, period. You know what I mean? It's just, you can't run from it. That's life, you know, and it hurts. And I acknowledge the hurt, right? But it is what it is, you know? So if you want more support, like I said, we have this group, and this is what we do. We deal with real stuff. We support each other. We encourage each other. We love on each other. And we really hold each other to really be honest about where we are and to be vulnerable and to grow, you know? And so if that sounds like you and you want to be a part of it, if you want more support in overcoming this and many other issues that you may deal with on a day-to-day basis and keeping it real, you know, and growing in God, join us in the Truth Room. It's an accountability group. It's private. It's confidential. And there's a link in the description. Join us. We only have 10 spots left, y'all. And we're closing actually April 30th. So there's very limited spots. We're closing soon. Yes. Thank you, Sister Ashley. Hey, Jared. See the men coming through too. Hey, you can share too. But I pray that it blessed y'all. I love y'all so much. It is an hour. This was a long one, but I think it was good. I really believe that it was necessary to go this long. And thank y'all so much for being here and for honoring my realness and for loving me through it all. And I love you the same. And y'all have a blessed night. If I don't have, I think I addressed every question. So I don't see any questions, but y'all leave comments. Y'all share it out. Leave a review on my business page, letting people know how awesome it is so they want to come and join us. But until next Tuesday, guess what? I'm going to give y'all a sneak peek. So next Tuesday, we're going to be talking about insecurity, y'all. Woo! It's going to be good. So that's just a sneak peek. We're going to be digging into some insecurity. And I'll see y'all next time. Love y'all. Don't forget to like the page or subscribe so that you get notifications and all of that. I don't know how to work all that, but hit the little bell or whatever it is on Facebook, and so that you could be notified when I go live. See y'all next week.